Hi, I'm Joanna Akem. I'm Managing Director of Climate Resilient Infrastructure here at the Intech Centre on Climate Adaptation in Canada. I'm based in Montreal. I have a BSc in Geography, an MSc in Environmental Technology. Professionally, I'm qualified as a Water and Environmental Manager with CIWEM, also as a Chartered Environmentalist. And here in Canada, I'm a professional geoscientist also. I am a member of the Climate Change Specialist Network, and actually when I was in the UK, I was heavily involved in the Metropolitan branch, the Southeastern branch, and also with the Young Professionals Network. So my current role here at the Intech Centre is basically to accelerate climate adaptation across Canada, particularly in response to flooding, wildfires, and extreme heat. So I work with municipalities, with businesses, organizations, non-governmental organizations, and I've been working in this position since the beginning of the pandemic in June 2020. But I've actually been working in the industry since 2000, so 22 years now, and it's been a long and exhilarating ride. So my career has been ever evolving. I've had several changes, and a lot of those being major changes. So I started my career in the UK in 2000, and actually I moved to Canada. I emigrated in 2009. So that was a huge change. I didn't actually appreciate at the time how much of a difference that was going to make to my professional career and how I would have to recreate my network. But I don't regret it at all, but it was just more of a change than I was anticipating. I've also had a change in language, and I started off obviously in England in an Anglophone environment, and actually in one of my key roles here in Montreal, I was working in a Francophone environment. So that was another key change, working professionally in a different language. My focus has also changed and evolved over my career. So I started as a geomorphologist, very much on the technical side, looking at river habitat restoration. And I broadened that to look at climate adaptation. And that's kind of primarily because that has been emerging as like a key urgency. So that has obviously influenced the kind of work I've been doing. And then recently, I also changed my role. I previously was a consultant. So from up until 2020, I was an environmental consultant with various different organizations. And now I work in applied research, and I would say advocacy as well. I have a key role in influencing decision makers. At the beginning of my career, I guess I wish I had more exposure to people in the real world. So I think this kind of video hopefully is going to help provide an insight into actually how we can use those technical skills. And I think, technical skills and knowledge are one area, but there's a whole kind of policy, law, influencing and soft skills part that we don't necessarily appreciate when we're starting out in our career. We kind of put a great emphasis on knowledge and technical ability. But as our career develops, I think, the communication, influencing, those kind of things became ever more important, and kind of how to apply the skills to real world problems. I think that would have helped me at the beginning. What has helped me get to where I am is a kind of desire to learn and to help society, I guess. I've always wanted to, I guess everybody wants to make a difference, but I kind of increasingly want to see the impacts of that difference. So I think that has influenced my kind of change in role recently, so that I have more freedom to say things that I might not be able to say if I was working for a private company. So I think that desire to learn and desire to help is also, been a key element. I think a love of the natural world as well. I think at the beginning, when I was a kid, I had an intense kind of desire to be outdoors, and I think that has shaped what I chose in my career. And also optimism. I think, it helps to have a positive outlook and a can-do attitude. And so I think, it actually also makes work a lot more fun. My biggest career flop or fail? This is a difficult question, because sometimes I actually feel like I'm failing every day because, I work in climate adaptation, and I see that we are not adapting with the urgency or the speed that we need to, and that it is not high up the agenda of many people, and that we're still making decisions that are kind of in the long term, not the sound decisions. So in some ways, I feel like, you know, I'm constantly failing, but that acts as a kind of a driver also to put more effort in and try harder. I think the most valuable lesson I've learned is the power of relationships. I think, you know, a lot of what we get out of work and what we kind of achieve in our work also is not just about what we're doing, but about who we're doing it with and how they support us and push us forward. So I think, you know, having somebody that has your back and supports you, and people who are like-minded, definitely helps, but also having people who do not see the things the same way as you also helps you kind of develop your arguments to help support what you're saying. So it doesn't help to just have people who agree with you, but I think, you know, strong relationships and kind of awareness of what other people are thinking and the ability to see things from their point of view. At the beginning of my career, I was probably more conscious of what other people thought about what I was doing, and, you know, kind of a bit more doubtful about my abilities. And I think as I've matured or kind of gained knowledge or experience throughout my career, now I feel much more confident to kind of state my own opinion and not feel that, you know, I'm not qualified to make that statement. So I think self-confidence has definitely been a big change and has evolved. In terms of top 3 tips for early career professionals, I think the first thing I would say is to follow your interests in terms of what you're passionate about, because when you're talking about your work and you're trying to kind of get a message across, it makes a difference if you're passionate about it, and people can feel that passion in what you're saying. So I would say do what you love. I definitely have throughout my career, and it's, you know, it's really added to my satisfaction in work. I think that another tip would be to get involved. I think forums like SciWEM and the Young Professionals Network provide a great area to network. And as I said, the relationships are so important. So I think, you know, getting involved in your networks and kind of doing voluntary work and kind of spreading your knowledge and contacts is really important. And I would say don't neglect soft skills. I think that, you know, the importance of good communication skills, kind of influencing skills, body language, all this kind of thing we don't get taught at university, but it's super important and can really help us in our career. In terms of CPD or further studies, I would say it's good to pick what interests you, obviously, but also emerging topics and where we can see that, you know, the space is growing. So I would say things like climate adaptation or sustainability, consideration of natural capital. All of these things are where we will need more skills in the future. So could be a good place for early career professionals to focus. I would definitely recommend it, basically. So when I was in the UK and I was starting my SciWEM kind of application process, actually the CEO of SciWEM was my mentor. And I was entirely grateful for, you know, having a mentor meant that we could actually identify different career like opportunities on the job training or kind of different things that I could be doing that were outside of my normal day-to-day job that really helped broaden my skills base. So having a mentor working with me was excellent. And I actually did also mentor some other people while I was in the UK, and I found that very rewarding also as a mentor. In terms of, you know, what SciWEM has added to my career, I think it provides really a forum for people who are working on things like climate adaptation and water management that isn't kind of, like, it's not just engineers, it's not just geomorphologists, it's not just ecologists. It's actually a place where we can all meet to work on these issues together. And I found that really important. I actually kind of miss it being here in Canada.